Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Explicit Measures podcast with Tommy, Seth, and Mike. Hello, everybody. We're back again.
What are you?
Joyful Thursday. I don't know.
Are you trying a new thing, Tommy?
Oh, try something else.
I don't think that's going to work.
Yeah,
yeah.
Scratch that. We're editing that from the audio.
Do you need me to think of a new one? Like Happy Tuesdays, obviously.
That's got to be a thing. Got to have a different one there.
We don't always need a thing. You don't always need.
All right. Sure.
So,
I mean, but sometimes you need a thing if you're going to throw out Joyful Thursday. Like, okay, yeah, it is. But
all right.
Yeah,
because that's how we're going to roll
you
today.
Like that? Yeah. For to each his own. I have a direct question for you guys. I've been seeing a lot of these lately in LinkedIn and even on the WOWs. The people have been using a lot of the.
Wait, don't use the acronym. Use the actual what it's called.
The Workout Wednesdays.
Workout Wednesday. Wow. Workout Wednesday.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So.
Seth was. I could see Seth hasn't. The coffee hadn't kicked in, and Seth was like,
"Wow is a video game I never played."
Wow.
Talking
about World of Warcraft.
I would like to talk about World of Warcraft and my favorite StarCraft for the next 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So
you've been graphing your stats on Power BI for the last couple of months.
I would have done that if
I've
Power
gone back
BI
in.
was available.
I've graphed my stats for the last 7 years that I've been playing.
About the Kurgs or what were they called? Never mind.
Anyway, Workout Wednesdays.
Workout Wednesdays.
So Workout Wednesdays, but I've been seeing them on LinkedIn posts where people are always posting their solutions. A lot of people are using the narrative science or the narrative text in ways that I haven't used before. Where in the Workout Wednesday, they were using it in a tooltip. But again, because you can really customize the narrative tooltip to basically say like what you want to show, not just random stuff. And then I've just been seeing.
Does it dynamically change the tooltip on the narrative text based on what you select with the?
Well, it's based on what you search. So they actually had on their there are 3 items. They like selected date, selected closing number, and that was like because you search, and they basically had each one. So whenever I hovered over a certain point, it would show that value, but as text. But I've been seeing other people use it to bold, to explain certain visuals, like a particular visual, and they're customizing it. Half the stuff I'm blown away with in terms of that makes a lot of sense for the narrative tooltips.
Was there a question in there? Oh, the question was, have we seen that?
Yeah,
I have not seen that.
No, I haven't.
I'm actually going to go try and pull them up here. Do you have any links for those specific ones, Tommy, that you were saying are quite interesting?
I will send it to you. So I don't have.
For those of you who don't know, and I guess this is also like a little bit of a side advertisement for the Workout Wednesdays. I believe the Workout Wednesday is a website maintained by. Let's see if I can get the contributors here real quick. I thought it was. I feel like it was Sean Miller, who's kind of like the center of what it's doing. But the idea is every Wednesday there is a challenge, and I think I don't know if it's for both tools, but I know it was started with Tableau, I believe. And the idea was you would go to this website, they'd give you some sort of challenge. Here's a data set that we give you. Make your data or make your report look like something like this. And then they would give you like an example. And then you would have to work on the tool and kind of do a little bit of, discovery, figuring things out to get to an answer. And so they've now since added Power BI. And so now you have a whole bunch of Power BI. I think they do it in like seasons.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
there's
you
like
can check out the Power BI report
of maybe not hundreds, maybe 100 different challenges now.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
David
they're all
participating. Yeah. Some pretty good MVPs are here. Also, I think Megan Longoria has submitted a few.
It's honestly a great resource to just experiment with even if you don't do the workout, to see the solution and what they did is that reverse engineering. I just sent the link to the report, and if you hover over the line chart, it's all that tooltip is all narrative tooltips or narrative text box.
It's pretty slick.
So
I like the idea of this one.
It's pretty cool.
And this is the fun part about Power BI is no matter what we talk about, like there's always another way to do it. Like I would never thought of using the narrative text this way, but now that seems like it's a great solution. So it's amazing what the community can think of.
I think what I've always enjoyed about Power BI is that if I had an idea, I could always at least get almost there or there,
Right.
right? Just thinking outside the box, right?
Yeah.
There's so many different features or components. So like this is just somebody spending enough time trying to like come up with the best version of something, right? Or
Right.
potentially how would you show this infographic, but in Power BI in a report that's useful, and then somebody just thinking through like, okay, I can't do this in the text box, or how do I make this dynamic? And if it's this the narrative text feature, like that's
Right.
it's cool. It's a cool solution. There's always some great looking features and report implementations that I'm still surprised by.
Yeah.
I
It's
think
cool.
I was talking about this yesterday with just some people in the data governance class that we run, and I feel like a lot of tools are out there. There's a lot of things that people consider Power BI a visualization tool. But Dan Meisner made a really good point when we were talking about this. He says it's actually it's way more than a visualization tool. Power BI has a data engineering aspect to it. It has a data modeling component. It has the semantic model mapping of reports and records and tables of things together. So there's a whole lot more surface area to what Power BI is. And I think we were having the conversation around, if you have an executive leader who doesn't really understand Power BI, helping them first understand that it is a more capable tool than just popping out a couple visuals is the core piece here. Because it really sits on an incredible piece of technology, which is analysis services. That is the engine oil, or the engine, the fuel that drives the engine. Right? That, to me, that's the secret sauce here. To have some model that's so flexible.
Where do you guys typically have the conversation though, right? Because Power BI, it's the data modeling and data engine and the merging of all the data that makes it extremely valuable, right? And it's very quick, like comparably speaking.
Sure.
To be able to do, use Power Query, access multiple data sources, link that together, create a model, have the model, all of the data parts. To me, I think the vast majority of Microsoft BI folks, right, like leaned into that. So do you find yourself like already had that experience? What they didn't have was the visualization side, right? A whole different ball game as far as like how you create a report page that's meaningful, visualizations, things that Tableau or other tools did better because they'd been in the space for a lot longer. Do you find yourself having the conversation where you're talking more to customers about the power of the back end, or the fact that the front end has all these capabilities as well now?
Honestly, the big selling point is the back end and the scalability of that, what that provides to the organization as a whole, from structuring the data, governance, but also being able to connect to everything. The visualization side, because that, for example, that solution with the Workout Wednesday, not all the reports look like that, and that takes, I don't want to say that takes more
It
skill
takes a
than
long
the data
time.
modeling, but that takes a long time. It's the fact that we can provide to the company their most important metrics, and be flexible and scalable about that without having to necessarily go through the visual side. So yeah, I probably, I don't know about you, Mike, but I would say 85% of the selling point is the back end, is Power Query, the data model, and the service.
I think a lot of so let me say I think I agree with you. I think there's a large selling point on the model that is key. I think it's more about an awareness aspect of this, right? So there's an awareness that I feel like I'm continually speaking to, that is, yes, we know we need visualizations. That's kind of a given. We have various tools in our arsenal that does this. But which tool can do this? If you step back and think about what is BI in general, it's about taking forms of transactional data and shaping it, designing it, and bringing it to a person, and then making sure the person has the right access to the data. Because it's, we may have a lot of information in our data warehouse, but I only need to give Mike a handful of tables. That's the only thing that he should be seen to do his job. So I think what I'm doing a lot, again, to your point, Tommy, it's the semantic pieces. It's the idea that we're trying to design, an architecture that describes our business, but does so in a way that we can meter and regulate which reports, which tables, which columns, whatever goes to which audience members. So to me, like there's a whole. I'm turning into a Seth at this point. Is really what it boils down to. Seth has always been the
Been saying that for the
IT
last few
governance
episodes.
SQL database, kind of the traditional sense there. And I've always been like business, give us everything. We want it all. Don't go fast, and we don't need a deployment pipeline. Just make it happen. And I'm now getting into the place where reports are getting important enough. They're getting enough visibility where I do need a plan for those kind of things. That higher level of thought and care needs to be designed into the model. And the more you think about the broader schema of your company, the more questions you could likely answer from a similar model.
So a couple things. Welcome to the dark side. That has been always one of the passions I've had about Power BI is seeing that they were reusing the big strength enterprise pieces that they've had before and not just building something
Great.
new,
Yes.
right? And it also opened up a ton of conversation, which we've had a lot of, and I don't think we're done talking about. The business side usage of that versus the enterprise usage of that, and it's all the same systems, right? That you can use. You get a lot of complexity in there that we're trying to simplify in conversation. The other part I think that's really important for companies right now is the value proposition, right? Especially with the Premium Gen 2 that was rolled out last year, the year before, but like the scales of magnitude that you now have as far as like number of data sets that you can actually have on one premium capacity, it's crazy compared to like what it used to be, which was everything, right? And then you're just fighting everything and everyone all the time to like keep things small. Otherwise you're going to like double your spend. So there's a lot of value in there, especially right now, as companies I think are looking for that value, right? It's not, don't bury me in, this one area, or like, what is this tool allowing me to do? And there's a huge swath of data access, like you guys were saying, governance, there's different ways to handle this. There's, it's not just the front end visualization. It's a lot of the back end tools as well. What's also cool though, is that's what we know we've had with the, I would say, exception of the enterprise side of that being pushed forward in features. What I'm super excited about, though, is been the gripe from day one, which is the visualization side. So I don't know if you guys caught it, but Miguel was on Data Jazzers yesterday. They were interviewing him, and he was kind of like, they're putting out there he's gung-ho on building the next version of whatever visualizations are. And Mike, you're on this committee that represents the community, according to Miguel. So
I got to represent well here.
Wow.
And don't want to screw it up.
Passive aggressive.
No pressure.
And Mike represents
pressure.
community, according to Miguel.
I do think, yeah. Well,
don't screw
Miguel,
it up, Mike.
I think the question that was asked on there is like, so if these guys get it wrong, are you going to blame it on them? He's like, yeah, it's a possibility. So, there you go, Mike. If the visualizations suck in the future,
don't worry, it's all gonna look like Deneb when we're done. It'll be fine.
We're just Deneb. That's all.
We're throwing out all the settings. It'll be only written via code. You have to run JSON to write every single visual. I mean, it's gonna be simple, no problem. Everyone's gonna love it.
I would open up Power BI and just see one visual there, one in the visual box.
It's just one visual. You just got to build it all from scratch. You got to write all the code to make everything happen.
If you combine Charticulator and Deneb, you get something that nobody will use.
Awesome. Well, with that, I think we should move on to the actual topic for the day. Our topic today is talking about where can you use, or we'll get into it maybe more. Searching in Power BI. Let's talk about searching for things and how do you find stuff? And again, I'm interested, Tommy. This is kind of a topic I think we could go many directions in this one. So I'm kind of curious to see where we're going to take some of this one. Yeah, let's start there, and maybe I'll kick it over to Tommy. Tommy, where do you think we should start with? What does it mean for search? What's the context that you're looking for here?
Well, this topic was inspired by an episode a few back where we were talking about, is this a must-use feature for any developer? Because from my end, I don't use search, and there's really two areas that we're going to really speak of. There's the formatting pane,
Hmm.
and they're searching objects when you're in the canvas or in any aspect where
Okay.
you're looking at what the fields are. And
Well, hold on.
really,
Let me phrase this. You're talking about search inside Power BI desktop.
in desktop.
Yeah, you would
I
immediately
see what you're gonna say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay,
That's
I
where
got
do
you.
you see where things are? So I want to. Okay, good. I think I'm with you on that part. So I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
Episodes,
Yeah.
So.
So there's another search in Power BI the service.
252. I'm calling it.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry.
No,
so
but yeah,
I wanted to phrase that part out first because I wanted to make sure that we're talking about that part because there is a lot of other search things that you could go back to the service. And again, I should have known better. Of course, Tommy's talking about the desktop. He loves his desktop tool. There's no way you're gonna ever go to the service.
I mean, what you don't? Why don't you uninstall? Go uninstall if you don't like it so much.
I think yeah.
Well, it's such a knee-jerk reaction. You know,
it is.
Yeah. Just full nuke it. You know, like don't disagree with me. Just stop doing what you're doing completely.
All I hear is poo-poo on this one side, and what?
Hey man.
Sorry. I can feel like the inner New Yorker coming out.
Oh,
go jump in a lake with your desktop.
What's the matter with you? You know, uninstall it.
Yeah, go uninstall. All right. Anyway.
All right. So back to searching for things in desktop. So let's go there first.
Yeah.
Because I also think I think there's a relevant data point or touch point here and like what things you would search for, how search works also in the service.
Yeah.
And is there anything that you're finding valuable there as well? Because that's where my mind went, is kind of like thinking through like as a side note here, how would you search or how do you find content inside the service too? That's another kind of challenge, I feel like.
I would save that for another topic because I think this is for the developer. If you're building in, honestly, if you're building in the cloud too, if search is available in the formatting pane, if you're editing your report, I think it's just the same really applies. Okay. But I think this is for the developer building the report.
Understood. All right. I think it's framed out very well at this point for me. So thoughts on search. Let's maybe we should go over a high level. Where are the places that you find searching capabilities inside desktop? So I know for me, the one I'm using a lot more right now, I have a lot of models that are quite large. I'm using the search inside the fields pane. So where the data fields are or the tables are. I'm finding that to be much more valuable. A couple of models that I've been given recently are, the models you're talking about. They're a scrollable list of tables on the right-hand side, and you've got to dig through and find things inside that pane. It's quite difficult to get through things quickly there. So I've been using a lot more of I click the visual, I can see the items that are there, and I want to quickly pare down the list of records in the fields pane. So I'm using the search bar there a lot more. How about you guys? Are you using that one a lot, or are you using other stuff?
All the time.
Yeah?
Yeah. Honestly, I'm really interested in Tommy's one table models, I guess, or like why he doesn't. maybe Tommy, you just don't work on the big stuff. I don't know.
Oh, no. Wow! Oh wow!
I can't. I honestly couldn't see.
Are you even on premium? Are you even?
do you even premium, dude?
Do you even premium?
Someone put some habanero in their coffee this morning. My
yikes!
Goodness.
Those are throwing some stones there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so for
you're supposed to have more than one table in a report.
I would say before, like, if we're going to compare the two, because we're talking about properties, right? The the search and the visualization formatting, right?
Yeah.
Versus fields, I use probably fields more, but I use them both because a lot of our models are large. So if I'm looking for something, it's always easier to search, at least narrow it down.
So allow me to provide the other side of the argument here, or the other side of the coin.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not going to defend. Yeah, because you're only supposed to use one fat table. We all know that. So let's
as wide as possible.
Right? As wide as possible.
As wide as possible.
So,
all the don't ever delete a column. Just add everything in there because you never know.
Don't scroll down.
If you
when you might need
your query before in the source, you're an idiot. Come on.
Don't filter anything.
Yeah.
Don't scroll down. Just get a bigger monitor. Just keep buying bigger monitors. Turn them vertical.
I will
Turn them
admit,
vertical.
a 49-inch wide ultra-wide screen works really well for desktop development.
Especially when it's vertical.
You can add all of the windows, all the filter windows in one. Every pane can be open, and
What
you
I've
still have a
just done-
full report on the right-hand side there.
Because of how long my wide tables are, what I do, I just combine 8 vertical monitors together. So, anywho,
Surprisingly, there's no complication with doing any joins between tables here, because it's
Yeah,
really
so
nice.
you
Well,
don't-
I have all the data I need.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's just a scroll. I don't even have to scroll. Anywho, so honestly, the other side of the coin from a searching point of view, and it's not even for new models, because I can make that argument, is you don't know what you're looking for.
Mhm.
I personally like understanding, I guess, the properties, and I feel for me the searching, the filtering out. I don't know why, but for me that takes me like out of the experience, so to speak, or I kind of lose my context where I'm at. And even with, honestly, the bigger tables, the more I want to have an understanding of what columns are in what tables, and having that, for me, it's a context thing. And and especially the more you work with that table, the more I have the better ability to find what I'm looking for quicker, rather than search. Because imagine you lost the search, which obviously you wouldn't. Then you have to go through going, okay, what table is this in? Where is it? Where?
What?
What do you mean?
What do you mean? Like, so
So
there's two things that you just talked about. One was like a new model, or getting your bearings, and I could see the argument where you'd be like, I want to see everything exploded out. I don't want to start trimming things down. That makes sense to me, right? But that's a discovery. Like, here's a new model, somebody else built it. I'm looking at all these things and where they're built and how they're built. I'm looking at the model itself. This is going to tell me the relationships. That I get. But then you just jumped into the other side of this, which I completely don't understand, which is, the model, the things, and you would rather scroll down and open a table as opposed to, exactly what you're looking for. You just need to be able to pull it into a visual, and you're not using a search function.
my tables are organized, Seth.
I would
No,
honestly,
you start typing the measure, and it just comes up with the table as well.
Yeah.
Like, it gives you the context.
I get
where
it.
It is.
I would disagree with you, Tommy. I'd also like, once I know more of the model and what measures I'm looking for, I probably would search for more stuff. I use the search much heavier, maybe.
So, and honestly, on the model side, I am open to changing my opinion on this, because this is not something we'll say, terribly passionate about. It's something I've been doing for 7 years, which I
terribly wrong about. I mean,
found out. Yeah, you definitely got you order from Starbucks. Can I get my habanero coffee, please?
Yes.
I need a little
That's
spice.
funny.
So you've been doing it for 7 years. What? You just got
for
the
7
pattern?
years. I have a pattern, and you want to talk about a habit, and for me, it's an efficient habit.
That's true. I would say, because
inefficient habit.
Efficient.
Well, how long is so? I'll ask the question.
So,
how long has search been around in the fields pane? That's been out for quite a while.
I would say at least 6 years.
So I'm
Right?
going to ask this question. If Tommy, if we had a search off, right, for a model that you knew, like, hey, here's this thing. It's all compressed. Go find me, this measure name. You would be able to find it faster than if I used the search function, and the task would be, go grab the column and put it in a new visual on the filter pane, or on the canvas. You would be able to find it faster.
I don't think I would find it faster, but I don't think the margin of time is that terribly significant.
Okay, but it depends on how large the model or where things are at too, because we're not infallible. Like, hey, I could have measures in multiple tables. Where did I put this, etc. I guess my point is, just because you're used to doing it the wrong way, I mean your way, isn't that like virtuous waste? Like, you have a bad habit. Like, is it worth trying out the search feature for a while to see if it speeds up, like how fast?
So I'm actually putting this into a bad habit.
I don't know. Are you wasting time as a developer?
How much? So I would argue,
seconds add up, Tommy. Seconds add up.
Seconds
That's
do
what
add up.
Hey, if we're talking about the topic and it's got to
Sure,
last an hour on search, seconds matter, Tommy.
Well, here's let me add some context to some pieces here, right? So I think not everyone does this, but this is something that I try to do when I'm building measures or calculations, right? So something that I've adopted is I'm using more Tabular Editor 3 on how I'm making measures and creating things inside the data model. Because of that, I'm starting to formulate in my mind some kind of naming convention that goes along with like a simple measure, something like, hey, this is just going to be a sum of some kind of column. And then there's like more complex calculations, right? A calculation where you're doing some kind of filtering. Maybe there's a virtual table you're applying to it. Something you need to be a bit more dynamic. But my thought here is when I start a data model, I'm going through all the columns that are numerical columns. I'm turning them off to not summarize. I'm hiding them and potentially making a measure on top of that numerical column. So I'm trying to build more metric-based things so there's less implied data elements that could get onto the report canvas for whatever reason. I want to stick with the explicit measures type thing, hence the name of this podcast. But that being said, like if you use that, if you start again, you don't have to follow my methodology, but if you did something like that, right? When I do sum of or average of, that's typically the moniker that I'm using in my tabular editor script. So it's nice because it makes everything very consistent. It's the sum of cost of goods. It's the sum of discounts. It's the average of price or sum of price, whatever those things are, right? You can have those numbers there. And so for me, now in any table, and like if I have multiple fact tables, I can now look and say, instantly type the word sum, and every calculation that I've written that is doing a sum of some sort of column in any fact table is immediately revealed to me, and I've already paired out or I've weeded out potentially 75, 80%, 90% of all
average
of the columns that I don't need. Yeah. So I'm immediately looking towards doing the calculations I'm looking for. So again, I would say that maybe is like a more mature practice that you would use as a developer in Power BI, because you're now, again, use the automation to your point, Seth, earlier. Seconds matter, right? Use the automation to your advantage and then figure out how to rip through those calculations quickly.
Fell in the chat. Ninja Dev only use the scanner API to search from PowerShell. That's what
wow. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's
Seth is
Dev.
sweating when
That's
he uses
true
Power
Dev.
BI.
Yeah.
He's got a headband. It's going so fast.
I
Hey,
love
man,
it.
when you got as much hair as I do, you gotta put whatever you need on there.
He's got
That's
a fire
amazing.
hydrant next to the keyboard just in case. So no, but honestly, but allow me to say what you said, Mike. I think I don't want to say there's technical debt with the sum of and average of, but in a lot of organization cases, those aren't like the names of the measures or the metrics that you're using, unless you're changing them in every visual.
Well,
Like
I would argue your base model should have a
your
good
foundational ones.
like foundational pieces. Like if I'm trying to design a good model kind of out of the gate, if I'm providing so I'm thinking this is again, there's a difference between a model that you've been given and a model that you created, because the model you create, you can kind of build your pattern around what you make sense to build for the report. On the other side, like to your point there, like if I'm given the model, odds are people are not calling, having a naming schema the way it should be listed out here. I think some people are not doing. Odds are I have found more models given to me that have just weird naming stuff. And so it's harder to find what things are named, just period, in general. So I find, for me, I try to make patterns of simple calculations and more elaborate calculations. And I'll even put them in different folders inside the fact tables. So I have, these measures are basic. This is just simple calculations. And these are like, another folder name that would be, more advanced calculations or something like that. So that way I can kind of easily mentally not have to look at the DAX measure, and I know exactly what it's doing just based on the name of it or the title of it.
See, I think there's a lot of assumptions, and I feel like I can make the argument using search could lead to a disorganized model. So this is why I could at least I'll make the argument, not saying that's always the case.
Mhm.
When I am going through the objects and I'm realizing like a measure is not in a display folder, or I have more columns than I need, that for me is always a way to say, how can I optimize this model? And that's something I constantly do is, wait, why is this measure in this table? Or I have a lot more, if I'm constantly doing the same thing, like grabbing a column going, I don't need to see all these columns. I can really clean it up. With search, that eliminates that viewpoint to me, from an efficiency point of view. I don't know if that makes sense.
But you're not losing context.
I'm not losing context, but I can constantly look at my model and see what can I clean, because of if I open up a table and I'm
I'd agree.
automatically scrolling, well, at some point, I know myself, and I'm going to go, I need to either hide them or I don't need them because I'm never using these columns. And to me, it's almost like a constant beating of, do you need all this here? And then hide that.
So my argument is not that you would use search every single time that you go look at the fields right? Like, I think you're bringing up cases where you're still improving the model. You're still like, it's new, you're enhancing it. I guess where search to me is, maybe it is a smaller subset, right? If you know your model well and you have these things, or you're looking for, like, whether you know you have them or not, right? You are creating visualizations on a canvas and you need the fields. To me, like, typing in search is a lot easier to condense down the fields list as opposed to scrolling through everything and trying to find something and not knowing whether or not it's there, right? And I have a hard time understanding, like, in those cases where search, I'm specifically searching for something.
Yeah.
The intent is, I think it's there, or it should be there. I'm just pulling it into a easy realm where I can easily add it to an object. Like, that makes sense to me.
So honestly, I will try the formatting on the objects. And then what does it say? 24 days to create a habit. I think it's somewhere between 21 days or 24 days.
Yeah, I've heard about that. A month of time takes to make a habit.
Right.
So you have to. So now your new challenge, Tommy, and there'll be a blog article at the end of this. Tommy does search for 24 days, 30-day challenge using search more often to see if I'm faster.
Yeah, and honestly, because like I said, it really is. It's a habit that just has been developed now. So I will try it. I will report back as an intro to say, am I enjoying it more? Is it a better experience? And am I faster?
Well, one thing I think we could all be challenged with is
stopwatch it.
Well, I'm gonna move to the other search area, because there's another search window that is newly introduced when the visualization pane changed. Now, this one, I feel like we are much more. I feel like this one will put us much more on the same playing field here, because I'm very comfortable with, or was very comfortable looking for features and where the settings lived for a particular visual. And Microsoft has kind of expressed, hey, our old way of doing the visualization properties wasn't the best. And so now they're looking to modify that. And so now we have this new pane where before you'd have a single column of all the properties of things. And now I have the visual specific properties, and I have a general section of properties that are general properties that apply to technically all visuals at that point, right? It's length, width, height. It's those, does it have a background? Does it not? Do you have rounded edges? Little things like that. This has really tripped me up. The UI change on this one has just messed with my total head. And
total head.
Not part of it, the whole thing.
Complete head.
Like this one's just wrecked me from I need to be able to stylize visuals, because I used to know where everything was, and I've been doing that for 6 years, 7 years, and all of a sudden everything changes, and now
all over the
it's
place.
not even the fact that they just rearranged things. It's like they renamed a bunch of stuff. Like the things that they were named, they were like, that's not a good name. We're going to change the name of that. So that's what's throwing me. So I don't even know what to search for at this point. Like the one that I always get lost on is percent of. It's like, effects. That one was that was an undiscoverable before. At least you can see the button nowadays. That's an improvement. But I would say, like, if I'm looking at a bar chart, and I'm looking at the text side on the left hand side, right? You want to increase the width of the text to be up to 50% of the visual. So I have long text strings on the descriptor side of the bars. So I want to increase the width of that. Gosh darn it, I can never seem to find the property. I never can remember the name of it. I don't even know what to search for. So I'm just literally like clicking like an idiot through all the windows inside the properties pane. And I'm constantly using the feature that I use in the new settings is the ellipsis and then expand all categories all the time. And I'm so nervous because they put the reset all settings to default at the very top, right in front of the feature that I need. Like, put it at the bottom, please. Like, just I know. Who's using that feature? So are you really using reset all features all the time? Is that happening for? I don't think that's the comment. I would feel like expand or collapsing should be the primary options here when you're talking about
by itself.
I would love a button. Just give me a toggle button that toggles it all open or all closed. Or better yet, give me a shortcut command.
Well,
like,
isn't there a setting in Power BI now where every time you open, it will expand all? There's this. I think this is an option, right?
There is, and I have it turned on, but it only expands the entire group when you expand like the entire group. Like, so if you're in like column headers, you can have it set to, and I don't even feel like it works right. Honestly, I have it turned on. I don't think it works. I don't know what it does actually. So I'm not sure if it, yes, there's a setting there, but by default, that's what I want. I want by default stuff to be all the way open, and I'll try and scroll through to find what I'm looking for. It's the whole, I'm excited that Microsoft has announced they're doing in-visual editing of stuff. I'm curious to see how that will help me get to my properties faster by clicking on the visual elements of the visual. And will that simplify me getting to where the properties are? I'm hoping that will solve some of this problem, because right now it's frustrating to me. This is one of the major pain points I have.
This is probably my one major gripe with Microsoft with updates they made. Because like, yeah, we made it so it was more logical. We're like, according to who? He's like
us, of course.
I mean, we're backgrounds under effects. It's just, and honestly,
so exactly.
So to your point, honestly, a big thing is if I'm going to be a trainer in Power BI, I cannot go through, wait, hold on, you just got to search for it. Nope, it's not there. I feel like I need to have a very intimate understanding of where those objects are. So I never use search on the objects or on the formatting pane. I didn't before, and I'm certainly not now, because there
was no search before. Before you were forced to just like bobble your way through and go find the property. So I'm happy that it's there. I'm just not using it to its full extent, potentially, most likely. But sorry, Seth.
So I want to make sure I understand the opinions here. So, Mike, you have strong feelings about the formatting pane in general.
I have strong feelings about a lot of this.
You do.
I have strong feelings. One in general is just shortcuts.
So
like period.
So these challenges of rename, and I feel I'm in the same boat. Everything is moved. Everything is under something else. So you do use the search, or you don't use the search?
So right now, I don't use the search as much as I should, because I don't even know what setting I'm looking for. So because some of the names of stuff changed, I don't feel like I trust myself to go find, like if I'm in the general section, I mean, I can search for width, and that makes sense. But one thing I know is like if I go to the properties pane, and unless I've selected the general section, so one, you have to click it. And again, this drives me nuts. Like absolutely. Let's implement something that increases the number of clicks immensely whenever you do something like that. That is not a good design on UI stuff. I mean, I get you're trying to make it simpler, but I have to click the general section and then type the width to actually get the width of the visual. And so to me, the search stuff just doesn't work the way I want it to work. It doesn't. Anyways, I don't even know what to search for anymore. Stuff keeps changing. And I feel like right now, the best method for me right now is to try to remember where the properties live in what section. And now that there's subsections, some of those are always, if you don't have that setting turned on, they're always shortened. So you have to literally, then analysis along. It's a mess.
While we're griping, can we bring back the quick access toolbar?
I guess the question I have is, because things are split off into visual in general, the search function transcends those containers. Like you search for something, and it just says like,
if I said color,
okay, here's your list of properties that are contained in either one of those. So I guess what's surprising to me is everything you're saying, I would use as an argument for using search. But at the same time, I also see that the unfamiliarity, right? Like being familiar with where a property is and I want to go just pull it up, the same way I'm very familiar with a model and the columns and the fields. I just want to go pull this field are examples of where search would probably be the best thing that you could use, because it's just a matter of like you're finding the thing that somewhere in this like long list of stuff that you're going to pull.
Right.
But pulling it back, like even from I struggle with the same things, right? Like after the change of formatting pane, I still haven't like grokked it all, because it was also at a point where I'm not as heavily developing as much as I used to every single day. So it's the patterns I had with the old setup were just, you knew exactly where to go, and now everything's different. So even if I did pull up a feature like a formatting property option, right? Do I know that that's the one I want? Right? I don't know. Right?
Okay, so let's go down that route. Right. So right now, if you go into again, I might not be clear on what's going on here. So let's say we're trying to use something like, again, the width of something, right? When you go to the chart, when you go to the search item, to your point, Seth, and I was wrong earlier, it will search both the regular and the general area. However, it does not distinguish between which high-level property category is deciding where the width is coming from. So like you'll see, like for example, I have a bar chart selected. I select width. The width has many properties, like in the y-axis, the values of the y-axis has a width.
Right.
The grid lines have a width. So there's grid lines, and the bar itself has a minimum category width. These are all things that you would adjust to be able to tweak those things. But then at the very bottom of the list, which is the general properties, right now we're in the general area. It says properties size width. So where I get confused is that the properties from the general tab, or is that another property that's from the visuals? Like I don't know. Like to me, so like when I'm doing the search, I would like to have like in the headers, it needs to be y-axis visual. Grid lines visual,
or
properties
out.
general, or at least another header bar that tells me, hey, this is because I know what I'm looking for.
Otherwise, what was the point of having the visual versus general?
I don't know. So the search doesn't help me delineate. So yes, maybe if I was just doing it more often, it would be more clear to me. But 100%, like it just, to me, it's all over the place.
And here's the other difference too with the formatting pane, where it's an easier sell with the objects. Usually when you're dealing with a visual, you're editing more than just one particular aspect of the visual. I'm not just doing the width of the x-axis and then moving on. I'm probably editing multiple properties of that visual. So to me, it makes more sense to understand take the time, we'll call it the technical debt of learning the formatting pane, as frustrating as it is, because I'm probably adding a visual or modifying a visual, and I'm editing multiple properties. So to me, it makes more sense to go through and rather than search, then search again, and then clear the search and then search again, to just have it all in the same context of the object I'm looking at. Yes, right now it's frustrating. It's again, you're taking 6 years of something that made a lot of sense into something that maybe another 6 years will make a lot of sense.
I would agree, but I would disagree with you. You're there. Like I would agree the original version made some sense, but there was also a lot of weird stuff that the original filter pane was doing that was totally wrong. Like there would be cases where you had 3 scroll bars inside the same window. You're like, what the heck is this? Or a scroll bar within a scroll bar within a scroll bar.
On the right one.
You're like, I'm looking at
it like that.
I'm looking. No, that was like horrible. Like so, like I definitely agree that by moving to the new visual format pane, I think there were definitely a lot of improvements that were made, and what it has done though is it's shifted a lot of your general, functionality on how that works. And I would also argue here, like I'm also very familiar with Excel. Like, okay, Microsoft did this change to kind of become more in line with like the Microsoft product suite. Okay, but when I look at Excel, the format pane for that thing is totally different.
Oh yeah,
and to me, it's even more simplified. Like the settings in Excel to stylize a visual or change things there, I think they're even more simple than what we have in Power BI. There's less little arrows. It's less. I mean, the whole experience looks just simpler. Not again, they're probably trying to keep the visualization search panel, the properties like in line with the styling of Power BI. But honestly, I'd say go to the simpler version of like how Excel did it. I mean, everyone already understands and knows how that works.
I'm sorry, but we need more windows. I don't care if they do this in the browser or desktop, but we need more windows that I can take out of the application from an efficiency point of view. But no, you're right. Like they are trying to go the Excel route, which I don't know how well that will work from from the more advanced features of Power BI. Fine, especially when you're going to do a custom visuals. But
I think the on visual styling is going to really help. Honestly, I think that's gonna. I think you can. I think Microsoft can use the metrics of anyone who's clicking a property, figuring out what properties are most used on most visuals, and illuminating or bringing those visual stylized properties to the actual visual itself. I think they could solve a lot of problems. One property, I don't know how they bring it there, that I would love to have would be just clicking on the, like if you could click on the visual and actually type in the width and height of that visual, like on the visual itself. Just the amount of times I wish I could just, accurately place that single visual on the report canvas with just numbers would be immensely helpful.
Yeah. Well, would you say when you're editing or modifying, creating a visual now, you're not just searching or you're not just modifying one part and then moving on. You're probably doing multiple objects or properties of that visual.
So this is a good question. So I think this is becoming, for me, and again, I still do a fair amount of single visual styling.
I already know where you're going.
I'm trying to be more efficient with this. And so I'm trying to think about what would the theme need to look like to be able to stylize this visual. So I would rather, again, I think I spend a little bit more time maybe than most people thinking about, okay, I focus on, there's 2 or 3 maybe work streams that I think are occurring when you're building reports, right? One work stream I think is just the style of it. Who cares what the data looks like, right? There's probably a general feel for how you'd want visuals or bar charts to be styled. And there's probably only a handful of those styles that you would want to use inside your report, right? So a feature of, hey, this is a bar chart. I'm going to have a bar chart with a little bit of bars and a lot of bars, right? There's kind of 2 styles, because in one case, you're going to turn off, if you have a bar chart with only a few bars, you're probably going to turn off the x-axis, not show the numbers. You'll probably turn on data labels and leave those labels on the bars. That's a style that you might want to use across the report. On the flip side, there's a bar chart that has many bars. And so turning on data labels may not make sense there. So you may actually, in that case, want to leave on the x-axis. So I think there's like some common grouped themes that you could build across your report that would then simplify a lot of this. And then you could literally build the report, apply a theme file, and it just works. No. So I think there's an efficiency standpoint there, and it comes with the sound when you do it, when you use theme generators.
I've never had the audio on during it.
See, that's the problem. There's a lot of interesting sounds on theme generators, Tommy, that you're just not hearing because you keep your computer on mute all the time. So yeah.
Dax generator goes da 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 da. I didn't know all this.
No, now I'm gonna have to now actually build it into the tool and actually add little notes, like doing little sounds during the. What I was just telling the theme generator, it's making all kinds of noise. Like
if you did like a bad theme, it's wah wah
wah wah.
We'll give it to you, but.
So are there any other search dialogues in the desktop that you guys use on a regular basis?
Well, okay. When you say it like that, no, but yes, there is other search features I don't use in the desktop. So if you had just said, are there other search features in desktop, I would have been with you. I've been like, yeah, there's one at the top of the header bar that I never use. Like, there is the
number one, the one I use every single time in scenarios where I'm connecting to multiple sources, especially like a CRM or Salesforce. You with me now?
I didn't even think of that.
Yes, I use this search. This is the one search that I use.
What is that search, Tommy?
It's the searching for data sources, a new connection.
No.
Wow.
That's another one though.
There is that one.
Yeah.
It's the choose columns in Power Query.
Yes.
Which is
I would say that's where I was going with that one.
It lets you select, unselect all. But those tables are so wide all the time.
Oh yeah.
That like my number one always used feature every single time I am connecting to those sources. Choose columns.
So that makes sense, especially for your dynamics.
And when you're in Power Query, you get a quick access toolbar, buddy. So if you want to shortcut that sucker, you can. Woo woo! Like I'm so happy about that.
Why is it there? Not yeah.
Because the Power Query piece of the code, I guess, is just old. I guess. Like I don't know. Like I have a shortcut. I have a whole bunch of shortcut commands that I use, like Alt1, Alt2, Alt3, and like to your point there, Seth. Like there's a couple that I use all the time. Detect data type, always there, because that's like a thing I do at the end of every step when I'm coming out of a Power Query window. So detecting data type is on that shortcut window. And then I'm doing the other one. Find columns or select columns or go to columns. Like, and there is a shortcut command now. You can use Control G to go to a column, because sometimes you're pulling wide tables. You just want to go to where that column exists. I'd agree with that one 100%.
Control G. I didn't know.
Did you know that one?
I like it. Yeah.
So Control G takes you. It's a go to column activity inside Power Query, and that even also has a search in it as well. So again, if your table is these are the models that have been given to me that have way too many pieces of data in them. So then I can start searching for that really weird parsed, sales column that I want to go have that has all that.
Right.
When you're pulling stuff from Dynamics or any kind of CRM system, there's like oodles of columns that you have, and you're like, I don't think I need all these.
Yeah. No, that's an example of a automatically created database by business.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
To the point about selecting the columns, again, you're starting with an not inefficient table that has 400 columns, or from Dynamics, or 100 columns, and you really do need to search in that aspect. I think going back to the original point, where I feel like if you have 20 columns in a table, do you really need all those? And that's what selecting objects after I load it in allows me to kind of assess. Like, I don't need these other 10 columns.
Mm-hmm.
But for choosing columns, always search from that aspect. So
me and you, Tommy, we're on the same page, just like we've been the whole podcast.
Yeah. The whole time,
the same wavelength.
Yeah, me and you, man.
Since the Data Flow Conversation episode 9, we've been on the same page.
Oh my gosh. I would also echo, I think, Tommy, your other assumption there, or your other one, there is the I do use a lot. I don't ever use the clickable options to go find a data source. I know likely what data source I'm looking for almost all the time. Again, that's one that's not changed since the beginning of the tool. So using the search window and get data, 100%, that is always there. One feature potentially that could be better inside Power Query
databases.
Well, I would say there might be a better way, because Power Query, I'm continually grabbing a new data source, or I'm adding a new table or doing things there. Maybe there would be some advantage around being able to on inside Power Query without having to click the window to bring up all the data sources. Might be a good idea to give you a search window where you could inside Power Query where you could search for features there, but then you could also search right for the SQL Server, and it would just immediately make you a new source and bring you right into, because I don't like all the extra clicks of okay, click the button, get to the window, click the search window.
I always pin my.
I would just love to type in SQL Server and it just make new connection, boom, right there, right into it, take me there.
Pinning the recent sources are huge, but especially when you're dealing with a Dynamics and SQL are huge ones where I'm going to search the tables, and sometimes from that exploratory point of view, it's okay, I know it has sales in it, or I know I'm looking for a table that's sales, and just that search feature in searching for tables or objects in a database is probably one of the coolest features in Power BI. Because it will automatically expand databases. It will look for anything that you have access to. I mean, SSMS doesn't even do that.
Yeah, I just put a link in the chat window for those on YouTube. There's a whole bunch of links for where you can go get Power Query shortcuts. So I just added that in there as well. So there's a whole bunch of, you can use get data, you can enter data, you can choose a column. I think so. Control G is go to column, which was what I was looking for. Control K is choose the column. So you can pick the one that you want, or you can add to the quick access toolbar and use Alt1 or Alt2 or whatever you want to get to different shortcuts there as well.
You can filter in SSMS, Tommy.
No, there's not an easy search bar though.
I mean, it's a
developer tool,
right? But
No. It's not as easy as Power BI.
Nothing's as easy as Power BI, man.
That's why we're talking about it. So
Well, okay. So one thing you guys didn't talk about was the search bar at the top of the Power BI desktop panel. Do you guys use
The whole thing?
like in the black
tried.
area at the top? So the only part of desktop that is still in dark mode, at the very top of the very
that's
top.
me. The only part that I still like.
The only part in desktop that's still in dark mode, there is a search bar there now where you can go search for additional properties. And I feel like the argument was made from like Microsoft, hey, you don't need quick access toolbars anymore because we've given you a search window at the top. And I was like, that's not the same thing. Like to me, the search bar at the top there is like, that's not helpful because now I have to like type the entire word that I'm looking for, which is typically like a line left, a line top, a line. So I have to search for the word. So a bunch of keystrokes to get to that. Once I found what I'm looking for, now I've got to jump in with my mouse and click to find the right settings. So like,
Right.
I don't really love. I
So-
almost never use that.
I never use that. So that's a search bar for the toolbar.
It's a
on
search
the
bar for
top?
everything, I guess.
Is there a
Like, you
keyboard shortcut to get to that? Because that would actually help.
I don't know. Again, never
F11?
use it. Couldn't tell you. I couldn't get there. I mean, it even does like if you go to the search bar, you could even pick up recent files. Like it'll go to recent files or things there.
Yeah, but it doesn't do everything because if you're in the context of a visual, it's not going to pull you
Yeah,
into a
right.
formatting pane or anything like that.
Yeah, maybe.
I'd
I mean,
No, I'm doing it right now. It doesn't do it. I'm seeing how far it goes because I've never used it.
wait a
Like,
minute.
It's
It
all
doesn't-
on the top.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I didn't understand your question. Yes, correct. It's everything inside the ribbons that are part of desktop. It doesn't take you to any
Yeah,
properties
yeah,
of the
yeah.
visual. Yes,
Okay.
correct. Yeah, and maybe with the new properties pane, maybe it would let you take you there. Like if you had a visual selected and then you selected with, would it? Maybe in the future they'll be able to move. So the idea here, the reason I'm saying this is when you look at a single visual and you have the on visual editing, I think Microsoft noted that you'd be able to edit that visual there and it would then link you or take you over to the properties pane, or at least it should anyways, right? If you adjust something there or tweak it, you could go get more options and it would take you back to the properties pane and show you where all the properties were. So maybe that would let you jump between any of the search bars. So whether you're searching for the properties of the visual or at the top of the dark mode desktop, you could search for properties there and it would just go to wherever it needed to be. So maybe that'll be.
I think the majority of this is just what's in the toolbar or in the ribbon.
I think you're right for now. I would like to see it. If we're gonna do it, get everything, get all the visual stuff.
I think I never use this one, but
No.
because I need the context of like where that search is applicable, and in like this one just doesn't have that.
Yeah.
At least contextually.
I agree.
Like if it's confusing.
This would be one where I'd like to see like, okay, Microsoft. Again, they're never going to tell us, but like, what is the usage metrics of these various search bars and who's using what the most? I'm guessing the fields pane and the visual one is being used the most. I don't know how many people. I mean, in my experience, I'm not sure how many people are actually using the search button on the top of the ribbon for all the different properties.
So yeah, let me ask you a question. This or that. If you were to get one feature back,
quick access toolbar.
All right.
okay,
What is it? No.
Quick access
it
toolbar.
was the quick access toolbar or the old.
Tell me what I
formatting.
was trying to say.
Or the old formatting pane?
Mm-hmm.
I think the quick access toolbar because while nostalgia has me say formatting pane, at the same time, Mike pointed out the problems with that one, which were just insanely like you got into this really weird like no, not that pixel, this one, and the quick access with shortcuts.
Yeah,
build your own
I think from an automation standpoint, like I like to be somewhat efficient, and if I'm using a feature over and over and over again, like I'm always aligning stuff. To me, to be able to discover where aligning of two visuals has to appear, you have to select them, and then the ribbon appears for being able to align those visuals together. To me, it's just too buried for something I do all the time. I feel like I do all the time. Maybe everyone else doesn't like to align things, or they use the little red lines to align stuff. Honestly, I'd be okay with turning off the alignment red lines and just using like shortcut commands to kind of get things aligned or
Or they
appropriately.
distribute it horizontally. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I like using the shift keys. I like using shift arrow key to like, jump, move things around the page. I like using the arrow keys to move individual visuals. I feel that's more precise than having to, and sometimes the red lines just kind of don't, like if you have 4 visuals on the left-hand side of the report page, some of them are a pixel or 2 off and I get like 5 red lines and I can't figure out which one's
bug
aligning
where
really.
it changes the size of the visual when you move it.
No.
Oh,
It's just a little
Well-
bit too imprecise for what I'd like to like it to do. I'd like it to be more like, okay, let's not do that.
Yeah.
Let's instead just, give me a couple more shortcut commands to get around that stuff, and I think I'd be happy.
Yeah,
So
I don't need.
Yeah.
I'm a guy where I don't need your lines, man. I'm gonna make sure that everything's lined up the way.
Yeah.
it
Don't need your
should be.
sneaking lines.
Exactly.
Yeah, dude, how many times, Mike? I'm the guy. I look at a report and I'm the one that's like, nope, that's a pixel off. Yeah, I know it just doesn't look
Yeah.
good.
Yep.
Go fix it.
Oh, how many times you told me to go fix things because you're like, that's not right. Go fix
Mike's
it.
like, look at the data. Look at what it's doing. I can't.
I can't. The
It's
pixel,
distracted me.
the colors are just. I can't. It's not right. The title's too big. Send it the title, please. Send it the title, and then we can talk. Awesome. Well, we've done it again. We burned through a perfectly good hour of your time. Thank you very much for listening. We have made a very mundane topic incredibly funny and maybe not, but
spicy.
for any of you who have made it through the entire hour of talking about search, this riveting topic that will definitely change how
You're
you
not
build.
playing. You got to play it up, man. This is our
Hey,
topic.
no.
Hey, if
no,
they made it to this
we
end,
have all learned hit Control G.
there we go.
For find columns. Like,
That's your
there's
tip for the,
value.
yeah.
There's
Control
value.
G and
it came
Control
out of
K.
chat, so thank you, chat.
There we go. Boom.
A little sarcasm with my coffee, please.
Awesome. Well, with that, thank you very much for listening. We really appreciate you being a part of our podcast. The chat has been amazing. It's been fun listening to you guys chat in there. So thank you very much. Our only ask of the audience is if you like what you're hearing here, if you're getting some value, if you're learning about Control G for the first time in Power Query, please go out and share the podcast with someone else. Let someone else know either at work or on social media. We really appreciate the support there. And if you don't mind, hit that thumbs up. Let us know. The YouTube algorithm will help us display this video to other people. So if you like it, give us a thumbs up and share with somebody else. Tommy, where else can you find the podcast?
You can find the podcast anywhere they are available on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast. If you do find us, subscribe, leave a rating on there. It's a huge help for us. Even leave a comment too. That's another way you can help us. Join us live every Tuesday and Thursday, 7:30 in the morning. Find us on YouTube, LinkedIn, I think even Twitch if you wanted to.
We're on Twitch. We don't really game, but
Yeah.
we're there just in case. The next generation of data developers will be in Twitch. They're going to be young, and eventually they'll
Shouldn't we
leave.
then be on?
There's another path outside of just gaming, guys.
Exactly.
And we're bringing that to that platform.
I just read an article the other day.
You read an
all these
article.
Companies are, yeah, I know. I read actually.
Oh, boy.
Which is crazy. It's all these companies like Nestle, Taco Bell, Nerf. They're all hiring TikTok managers. So shouldn't we be on there too?
Oh, we should be on TikTok. Well, if they could give us a long form 1 hour TikTok, I think we'd be okay.
Yeah.
I don't
figure it out. Because
I don't feel like sending all my data to other
it.
countries at this point. So we'll maybe
Actually, Mike,
not
I
be
made
in
a
TikTok.
bet with one of your colleagues that TikTok will be gone at 7. No, Seth. It was with whoever we met in Chicago. I don't know.
Good
Anyway,
story.
I made a bet.
And then I found $100 in my pocket.
Okay, time to go. All right. So,
And with that
outta here.
closer.
With that closer, thank you all very much. We'll see you next time.